Hello, everyone, and welcome to our remote summit. I'm excited to share with you today what you really need to know about moving from Atlassian server and data center products to cloud. But before we get into the details, let's start with some quick introductions. I'm Marin, and I have been with Atlassian for a year and a half as part of our cloud migrations team. My job at Atlassian is to deeply understand customers' journey to cloud by working closely with them through every step of their migration, then to use that knowledge to resolve any points of friction that they might have had. So, through working with many of these customers and partners, I've seen a common pattern of misconceptions crop up, both about Atlassian's cloud products generally and about moving to cloud. In this presentation, I'm going to share insights from customers who've migrated, offer practical advice for keeping up to date with the pace of change, and fingers crossed, bust some of the most common myths that I see. But to kick things off, let's first talk about why are customers even moving to cloud? Most businesses choose to move to cloud for one of a few reasons. The first is minimizing IT workload. So cloud allows you to prioritize your team's time and resources towards customers rather than maintaining tools. In cloud, you can say goodbye to manual upgrades on nights and weekends, save money on physical hardware, and free up admins to focus more strategically. Going hand in hand with that is cost savings. So in addition to less time and resources needed to maintain, you'll also see reduced hosting costs and other hidden costs of administration. Next up is agility. So cloud allows you to dynamically scale up and down with demand. Our flexible subscription pricing means that you can move faster to support your teams and ensure that everybody has the tools that they need to stay productive. And of course, in cloud, we manage security and bug fixes for you, so you'll always have peace of mind. Now, there's a fourth driver that has popped up more recently than when I was designing this slide, and that's mobility. So cloud really enables mobility and remote work. In cloud, your employees can quickly access projects and information from anywhere on any device. And lastly, it's often simply a cloud-first mandate from management that pushes customers to move. Whether it's now or 5 years from now or 20, it's inevitable that software is headed to the cloud, and those that are moving now are able to catch the wave, adapt, and see benefits early. But the question you're probably asking yourself is, when is it right for me to move, and what information do I need to make that decision? When you're considering the mission-critical tools to power your teams, you need to know the facts. After all, your organization's future depends on it. So let's get to it and talk about some of the migration myths. The first misconception we often see is that cloud and server are exactly the same. However, while Atlassian's cloud products do provide the same benefits, they can differ in features, functionality, and user interface. So in other words, Atlassian's cloud products aren't simply server or data center products hosted for you in the cloud. And what that means is that one of the biggest mistakes you can make when migrating is failing to prepare yourself and your end users for these changes. So let's go through what some of the big ones to be aware of are. First, let's start with platform differences. So one big one is navigation. So as you can see from this little sketch, the navigation in cloud is currently a vertical navigation. Much different than what customers are used to in server, where the navigation is horizontal or it runs across the top of your screen. And while we are currently rolling out a new horizontal navigation that is far more aligned with what you see in server in cloud, for the next several months, and I'm speaking now in late March 2020, users in cloud may still need to adjust to a vertical navigation. You can learn more about these nav changes by searching new Jira and Confluence Cloud Navigation. The first results that you should find in any search engine will walk you through what those differences are. The next big difference is user management. So there are a lot of differences between user management in server and cloud. A few of the key ones being that administration and user accounts are centralized across Atlassian cloud products. This means that users have a single account for all products and that admins manage their organization users in a unified admin hub. So in addition to learning about the user management model, You'll need to take time to learn about Atlassian Access, which provides enterprise-grade security and centralized administration across all your Atlassian cloud products, and determine if that's right for you. Another thing to consider are apps and integrations. So I'm going to talk a lot about apps later, but you may find slightly different apps and different features available in cloud. So you'll want to take time to do a careful assessment. One of the really great benefits to cloud is that you can quickly integrate with other leading cloud products in a snap. So that's a key thing to take note of. And then the last major difference is around the actual plans available in cloud. So there are a variety of plan options and billing and licensing models that are completely different in cloud to what you're used to in server. And so you'll want to familiarize yourself with the details early in your assessment. For all of these topics, we have documentation available to take you through the key concepts. So I would urge you to just, again, do a Google search and find all the information that you need on each of these. Now let's talk about Jira. So there are also some differences that are unique to Jira Cloud. One major one is what we call the new issue view. So we are in the process of redesigning one of Jira Cloud's key components, the issue view. And of course, we want users to adopt this view, but I will note that this change can add additional user onboarding challenges. So if you do have users who are used to, the view that they see in server and you're worried about their onboarding, you can ask them to disable this in the user's personal settings. So you may want to point this out, for example, in your onboarding and training materials if you think it's something that might crop up. Another big change is next-gen projects. So by default, when you migrate from self-hosted to cloud, your projects will be imported as something called classic projects, which are the project type that you know and love today in self-hosted Jira. However, unlike self-hosted Jira, in cloud we also offer next-gen projects. And as the name implies, these are the newest project type, and they're designed to empower autonomous teams who want to get up and running quickly. They're perfect for teams who want to easily jump in and design their own unique workflow without the need for a Jira admin or added complexity. And lastly, we always like to call out the native mobile apps available in cloud. So users and admins alike will definitely want to take advantage of these after migrating. For Jira in particular, we hear a lot of great feedback about how helpful the push notifications are for staying in sync on certain projects. So these are the sorts of things you'll want to take note of when you're thinking about how you might onboard your users to cloud. And of course, in Confluence, there are a few differences as well. The major ones being the new page editor. So similar to new versus old issue view in Jira Cloud, we're also rolling out a new, more modern, streamlined editor in Confluence. Users will have the option to choose between the new editor and the old editor when creating and editing pages. So as you consider migration, you'll definitely want to be familiar with both. And again, like in Jira, we offer free native mobile apps for Confluence Cloud that will enable your users to access information on the go. Super handy and a great benefit of cloud. Now, the easiest way to learn about these differences and get familiar with them is by trying them out for yourself. And we have made that super simple thanks to free extended cloud trials for server and data center customers. This trial helps you move to cloud over the duration of your existing maintenance period at no extra cost to make sure cloud is right for you and before you leave your self-managed solution. I'm going to talk a little bit more about these later, but you can learn all about these trials by visiting atlassian.com/getcloud. All right, so myth 1, cloud and server are one and the same. That one's been busted. Let's see what myth 2 is. Keeping data on premises is safer than in cloud. Well, in reality, security, reliability, privacy, and compliance come standard with Atlassian's cloud products and are some of the core tenets of our products. Even if you have a growing security team, organizations can rarely assemble the resources needed to uncover and protect against hundreds of possible alerts that come through each day. When you switch to Atlassian Cloud, we act as an extension of your security team. And so by moving to cloud, we can help you with things like meeting industry accepted compliance standards, supporting your organization and meeting data privacy obligation around the world, ensuring your applications are stable and reliable at scale, and ensuring that your data is safeguarded with things like encryption in transit and at rest across our cloud services, external vulnerability research such as our bug bounty program, and much, much more. And a key thing to note is that the reality is cloud strategies usually lag behind cloud use, meaning there's a good chance your teams have already escaped the bounds of your server fence and are already using cloud tools. This leaves most organizations with a large amount of unsanctioned and even unrecognized public cloud use, something that's known as shadow IT, which creates unnecessary risk exposure. Savvy CIOs are therefore not simply evaluating a move to cloud, they're actively moving to secure their shadow IT users before, quote unquote, officially moving their applications to cloud. Thanks to Atlassian Access, we can now offer admins a central place to view and manage everyone using our products in cloud, as well as standardized security across their users and content. One thing to note here is that we often see customers, particularly enterprises, set up their Atlassian cloud organization and subscribe to Access as a first step in their move to cloud before even thinking about, migrating data and how that works. And the reason for that is this provides visibility into existing cloud usage and establishes a security baseline going forward. So, where can you go to find more? Well, we've worked hard in the past year to increase transparency and make it really easy for customers to complete security and compliance reviews as part of their move to cloud. Our Trust Center is a central place to learn how we protect you and your users and ensure that we meet your security and compliance requirements. And you can find that at Atlassian.com/trust. Easy to remember. All right, so this myth, again, busted. Now, moving on to the next myth, let's get into cost. A common misconception is that managing your own applications is cheaper than cloud. However, this doesn't take into account total cost of ownership, or TCO. Many customers evaluating the costs of cloud versus server find cloud to be more expensive at first blush. The difficulty of this calculation is that many of the costs of running an on-premise deployment are hidden. For example, how many people actually accurately track the amount of time they spend on operational maintenance, or on upgrades, or on managing security and privacy yourself? With SaaS, all your costs are clearly visible in the subscription fee, and while the pure licensing costs might be higher in cloud, you do need to make sure that you're considering the total cost of ownership. This trade-off often comes out in favor of cloud, as Sky, who's one of our recent migrators, notes. His company moved because it was hard to justify the time spent on internal tool upgrades when they don't directly contribute to our mission. But regardless of how you look at the costs, we also want to make sure we can help make the transition to cloud as seamless as possible. And that's why we've put together a number of different cost-saving offers for migrators. The first, which I've already mentioned, is extended cloud trial licenses. These are designed to ensure that you don't need to double pay for both cloud and server at the same time as you evaluate, test, and migrate. Extended cloud trials align with your existing maintenance period, which means they'll finish when your maintenance runs out at a maximum of 12 months. If you have fewer than 60 days remaining on your server maintenance or data center subscription, or if you have lapsed or expired maintenance, you can still get a 60-day cloud trial. And in addition, Atlassian Access can also be extended upon request. So we definitely urge you to use these as opposed to our standard 7-day free trial, which I can promise you will not be sufficient time to plan for your migration. The next thing we're doing is discounts for unused server maintenance. So this is a rebate on your unused server license and maintenance if you have that remaining at the time you migrate and no longer need it. Next up is loyalty discounts for enterprise customers. So this is an additional discount offered to enterprise customers who are moving 1,000 or more users to cloud. And we also now offer cloud academic and community licenses. This includes discounted pricing on the core products, so Confluence and Jira Cloud, and Atlassian Access for free. So very exciting there. So this one, again, busted. The next myth that I want to talk about is that big enterprises aren't using cloud, which often comes up in the form of questions like, what companies like mine are in cloud? Well, the reality is that server and data center customers alike are migrating in higher numbers than ever before, and that's in addition to new enterprise customers choosing cloud as well. In fact, over 80% of Fortune 500 companies have an Atlassian cloud license, and we're seeing more and more large customers reach out to start planning a migration every day. On top of that, over 90% of new customers choose cloud. And to my earlier point, I know what you're thinking, these aren't just smaller customers who are getting started with Atlassian. These are customers like Redfin, Nestle, Lululemon, Pfizer, Unilever, and many, many more whose names you know and love. Hopefully today or sometime in the next few days, you've got a chance to see the summit keynote and learn about our new enterprise plan in cloud. We would not be investing in this type of plan if the demand weren't there. We have customers switching to cloud from across industries and geographies, and with new enterprise features like data residency, release tracks, and more coming soon, we certainly expect this trend to increase. So this one, again, busted. Now let's move into migration. So the next myth is that the production migration is the main event. But let's talk about what migration actually entails. Planning, preparing, and onboarding are often the biggest parts of migration and the parts that most impact success. It often takes enterprise customers 6 or more months to migrate, particularly if they're consolidating instances or have a large number of apps to consider. Now, I know this is a lot, so note that the time frames here are estimates for a larger migration. If you're a smaller customer with only a few dozen or 100 users, not a lot of apps or little complexity, this can definitely be compressed. So consider this kind of the large scale migration. And this type of migration really starts 6 to 12 months before production migration when you first start to assess cloud and prepare a business case. Once you have decided to move, planning, prepping, and testing are critical to success, and the bulk of time will be spent in these phases. And that will include things like app assessment and migration planning, developing a plan for cloud user management and user migration. You definitely want to get this piece right. Evaluating and deciding on a migration strategy. So all at once versus phased. If phased, what does that look like? Testing your migration and running user acceptance testing, preparing your communication, onboarding, and training materials, developing your migration runbook, which is basically a day of timeline for your production migration. And then, of course, after migrating, post-migration training, feedback, and transition back to business as usual. The key thing to note here is that most of the work involved in migration takes place beforehand when you're preparing for the move and after when you and your users are adjusting to change. So while the migration is obviously important, that's how you get your data from A to B, it's just one of many milestones that you'll need to plan for. So this one, hopefully, is also busted. The next myth is all about tidying up, and it's that you don't need to clean up before moving. However, taking time to spring clean before moving will definitely have lasting positive effects. This, I really want to stress, is often one of the overlooked steps that's viewed as nice to have rather than essential. And I want to convince you right now that it's essential. So let's start by imagining that you're moving overseas. It's not likely that you would just chuck everything you own in a giant shipping crate and tote it over. Before moving, you're going to do some cleaning. You'll figure out what to keep, what to leave behind, what to donate. Failing to do that obviously will be a far more painful move. Once you get there, you're just going to have to unload all of that stuff and end up going through the same exercise anyway of figuring out what to keep, or you're going to have to organize it in your new house. It's not going to be pleasant. Moving to cloud is exactly the same. You'll want your server all cleaned up before you move. So this includes things like archiving unused spaces and projects, cleaning up your user base, completing an app audit to determine which apps will be needed in cloud, minimizing customizations, identifying and eliminating duplicates. So for example, you may have a British spelling in a workflow and an American spelling in a workflow. You probably don't need both workflows. And then deleting things like unused schemes, fields, and issue types. Making time for cleanup has two major benefits. First, it will make your move faster and smoother. So the less data that you have to migrate, the less time it will take, and the lower the chance for things to cause issues during your migration. And once you're in cloud, this can actually have a positive impact on performance as well. So if you have less data and less bloat, if you have less issues to load on a particular board or project, that can make things move faster. So this one, hopefully, also busted. Now let's move to apps. A common and outdated misconception is that apps aren't available in cloud. But app developers are quickly building more and better cloud apps. In total, we now offer cloud customers more than 1,000 apps and integrations through our marketplace that extend use case functionality of our cloud products. This includes some of our most popular server apps that now have cloud versions, like Insight Asset Management, Jira Workflow Toolbox, JSU Automation for Jira, Structure, and Confa Forms. Even our largest customers with a dozen or more apps are now finding that cloud offers what they need. In 2019, we added 250 new cloud apps, which resulted in almost 25% growth in the number of cloud apps in just the last year. So when you think about that, it's a little more than an app every business day. So by the time you had your morning coffee, a new cloud app has been published to the Atlassian marketplace. In the context of migration, which can take, as we mentioned, months or even years to plan, what that means is that you need to keep a pulse on what's new. The apps available when you started investigating a move won't necessarily be the same as the ones available when you actually make the switch. And if an app isn't currently available in cloud, we highly recommend reaching out to the vendor because they may very well have a version in the works, or they may want to talk to customers who are interested in migrating so that they can understand what features and functionality you need in cloud. So this one, busted, but we're going to keep on the theme of apps for the next myth, which is that apps don't migrate to cloud. So big caveat, this one is actually partially true for now, but app migration is a major focus for Atlassian and app vendors. So we know that more than 60% of our customers across deployment options use an app from Marketplace. And as we look towards our largest customers, that number is well over 80%. So as a migrations team, we are of course doing everything we can to make app assessment and migration easier on you. That starts with our app assessment tools, which can make it easy to understand your server app footprint and usage and create a migration plan for those you'll need in cloud. Built directly into our migration assistant tooling and server, we display how frequently apps are being used by your teams, whether there's a cloud version available, and if it has a migration path. This feature is available today in the Confluence Cloud Migration Assistant and will be available for the Jira Cloud Migration Assistant later this year. But assessment is only half the battle. Currently, app data is not migrated along with your core product data. Performing app data migration may require working with vendors directly, which we know can complicate and prolong your migration planning period. This can also add complexity during your production migration because you don't only need to migrate your production data, but also your app data. To help alleviate this pain, we are working on app migration, making it practical to migrate apps with minimal overhead and maximum reliability. I can't promise a timeline on this, but we are starting development, and we know that it's something that you want us to improve. So this one, I'll say busted, but it is semi-busted. You do want to be really careful around apps and make sure that you do your research here. So moving on from apps, another common myth relates to the flexibility of migration strategies and what our tools support. The fact is, as we release new and more flexible migration tools, we are enabling customers to move to the cloud at your own pace, migrate in stages, or even use a hybrid approach. So looking backwards, in 2018, we launched the Confluence Migration Assistant. This is a free server app that makes it easy to migrate data and users directly from Confluence server or data center to cloud. It gives admins flexibility to choose what, how, and when to migrate, and we got such positive feedback from our customers. We kept hearing that they couldn't wait to get the same tool for Jira. In the past, Jira migration was inflexible for a variety of reasons. For one, you couldn't easily merge with an existing cloud site. The site import process overwrote all of your data in cloud. You couldn't select which projects to migrate. It was all or nothing. And the workarounds available were both time consuming and came with their own unique sets of limitations. So as you can see from the related Jira feature request, which has been open since 2010, it's now 2020, this has long been a source of frustration for customers with over 700 votes and 450 watchers, which is why we are beyond excited to announce that we just launched the Jira Cloud Migration Assistant. This tool, just like the Confluence version, allows you to migrate your instances on a project-by-project basis along with your users and groups. Now, there are a lot of situations where moving all at once may not be the best choice. So for example, when you have large amounts of data to import, if you can't afford long downtimes or you operate global teams and need to stagger your downtime strategically, let's say you have many apps used by different stakeholder groups, some of which are unblocked to move and some of which aren't. You might want to move those groups over little by little. And of course, you may have a need to onboard or change board many users, and you may want to move them in stages to allow for training. Now, thanks to the migration assistance, you have the flexibility needed to take a more strategic approach than simply move everything at once to a brand new cloud site. So whether that is splitting or federating from a single server or DC instance into multiple cloud sites, or potentially moving project by project into an existing cloud site, or merging or consolidating several instances into a single cloud instance, we now have tooling that enables you to do this. So I think thanks to our new tooling, this one has been busted. And now for the last myth, my favorite myth, cloud migration is too much for my organization to handle. The reason it's my favorite is because we have an amazing support team ready to help you every step of the way, and we have done a ton in the last year to make support absolutely top-notch for migrations. So a few things that we offer for customers. First, a dedicated migration support team to help you plan and execute your move. We have special migration support tickets. If you ever hear us say the term move ticket, that's a migration support ticket that you can fill out simply by going to support.atlassian.com/contact and selecting migration support in the first drop down. We also offer weekend support for your production migration. So we know that the vast majority of migrations occur over a weekend, since that's when customers can afford to have some downtime. And so we know that we also need to support you during that time. So this is support. If you let us know you're migrating over a weekend, we'll make sure to have a named support engineer for you on hand to help. We also offer enhanced support for enterprise migrations, which we define as kind of anybody who's migrating over 1,000 users to cloud or to a 1,000 user cloud site. And this is to ensure that everything runs smoothly for those customers that have a lot of users and need a little bit of extra help. And finally, if you do need further support beyond what we can offer, we can also help connect you to the right partner for you. So we have a special migration contact form at atlassian.com/partners/migrate. And filling this out, we can find just the right partner to help with your migration. So all of these changes are designed to give customers, both large and small, exactly the support that they need. And this approach has been working. So we recently got this feedback that I love from Redfin, who moved from Confluence Data Center to cloud. So Alistair said, the amount of support and level of urgency from the Atlassian team was awesome. I loved our interactions with Jose. Nothing was ever too much, and he far exceeded our expectations. This is exactly what we want to hear from all of our customers who are moving to cloud. So if you have one takeaway from this talk, it's this. If we do not know that you're migrating, we cannot help you. So get in touch early to establish that line of communication. Doing so upfront can help you resolve issues early rather than down the line when you're trying to migrate. And as I said, it's as simple as filling out a migration support ticket and giving us an early idea of what your plan is and when you're planning to migrate, and we can take it from there. So this one, 100% busted. But where to from here? We have covered a ton of ground today, and I do want to kind of try to sum it up and leave you with some key takeaways. So there are a few things I want to leave you with that will help you have a smoother journey to cloud. Now, I haven't covered all of these in the myths, so get your notebooks out. These are just a few final notes. First, things move quickly. So please, please, please do not assume yesterday's headline is today's news. Across cloud, across migrations, across marketplace, and across support, we are making rapid improvements. So if there's something that wasn't working for you, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, please check back with us because it may very well have changed. And we are listening to your feedback. Next up, don't forget apps. If you have them, please start assessment and determining migration paths earlier rather than later. We don't want this to become a hiccup for you down the road. And as I was just mentioning, you have to help us help you. So please, we'd rather you contact us early so we can set you up for success than wait to get in touch with us until, you're trying to migrate your users and something is going wrong and it's your production migration weekend. Next, use your extended cloud trial. So these are literally just for migrators to take advantage of and will make planning your migration much easier. There's no reason not to use an extended cloud trial rather than a standard cloud trial, which only lasts for 7 days and isn't sufficient for migrators. And finally, test, and test again. So I put, if you test, you'll get some rest. And by that, I mean, if you do proper testing, your production migration will run smoothly. You can sleep that weekend, your life will be good. The other thing about testing that's really, really important is to make sure that you use that to build your onboarding and training materials. So during UAT, for example, take note of where customers or users have questions and make sure that you factor that into your training. And finally, the best starting place for your migration is the Cloud Migration Center. Here you can learn how to plan, conduct, and optimize your migration. Just visit atlassian.com/cloud migration to get started. Thank you. So thank you for taking the time to listen, and I really hope you learned some new information. We cannot wait to hear from you as you start planning your move to cloud. Have a good one.